Yo, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday evening. Beautiful evening here in Florida, where I am. I'm heading out to Los Angeles tomorrow for a few days. So, try to make some videos when I'm out there, but we'll see. I still got this going from my sparring session on Friday night, but it's getting better. So, I got to talk a little bit about Trump said he's going to go take a trip down to Fort Knox with Elon Musk to make sure the gold is there, which I find the whole thing to be very, very funny because, like, the president of the United States is going to go down to Fort Knox to make sure it's really there, kind of like some scene out of a Die Hard movie with Bruce Willis. Somebody stole the gold out of Fort Knox. We got to go see if it's really there or not. But laughter aside, it's kind of just like a little bit ridiculous. I just find it to be a little bit ridiculous because, like, when I think about gold, like, I think about it as an industrial metal. And, it's the 21st century and we're talking about artificial intelligence and sending people to Mars and quantum computing and all this amazing technology that's happening. And it's like, there's still this idea or this belief that people cling to, apparently also Musk and Trump, that, we're still digging our money up out of the ground. I mean, I look at gold as an industrial metal, which is what it is. Even though we've seen over the last several years more central bank accumulation of gold, the main demand comes from jewelry fabrication. It's an industrial commodity. But there's still this belief that it's kind of like money. And it's just funny to me that they got to go down there and verify that the gold is there. Like, I don't know. I just find it to be kind of comical. All right. I mean, we really got to let go of this notion at this point. When central banks own gold, the only way they earn income off of that is through gold leasing. They lease out the gold. Now, yeah, gold can appreciate in price, but the central banks rely on gold leasing. They earn an interest rate on the gold. So ostensibly, all the gold that they've accumulated over the last, 5, 10 years, since it's been like a big thing for central bank. Let's talk about since the major sanctions on Russia. That's when it really started to happen, I guess, like back in 2022, maybe 2014, when Russia went into Crimea, and there was the first round of really heavy sanctions and kind of like punishing Russia. And the Russians decided, well, we're going to stock up on gold as a reserve. Let's say for the last 10, 11 years, that stockpile of gold that's being held by central banks, that'll become supply at some point, in the sense that it's going to be leased out. So, like, that's a large quantity of supply that's going to enter into leases. And I think, like, once this whole gold mania subsides, and if we go into a recession, especially if we go into a recession, then I think you could see the gold price languish, stay down for a lengthy period of time. But let's get back to this idea, like, he's got to go down there and verify that the gold is there. This is the problem with having, like, your money or your currency or your unit of account denominated in some physical thing. See, like US dollars, which are basically just electrons. I mean, there's no limit on the amount that can be created. So if necessary, you can't really lose them, okay? Here's an interesting historical fact. In the 17th century, Spain was the most powerful empire in the world. You've heard probably of the Spanish Armada. I mean, they had ships traveling regularly to the New World, to Mexico, to South America. And the basis of their monetary system in the 17th century was silver. They went to Mexico, they mined silver in Mexico and Peru, places like that, and they would transport it back to Spain. And that was the basis of their monetary system. And then the British at that time didn't really have a big navy. They started to develop sort of a navy. It was still kind of a ragtag navy. It wasn't what it eventually became. And the early British naval officers, they were really kind of like pirates, like, Admiral Nelson and these kind of guys. And they went over there and they figured out that if they attacked the convoys of the Spanish convoy, the Spanish ships transporting silver back to Spain, it would completely destroy their monetary system. And that's exactly what they did. Like this ragtag navy of Britain back in the 17th century started to attack these convoys of Spanish ships that were transporting the silver from the mines in Mexico and Peru back to Spain, which the silver, again, was the basis of their monetary system. And once they did that, it was the beginning of the end of the Spanish Empire, okay? And Britain built up its navy into the most powerful global naval force on the planet. That was the foundation of what became the British Empire for 200 years. So like, and there's other smaller examples of this. Like I remember one of the panics, the financial panics that occurred, I forget which one it was, but we had a lot of them in the 19th century in the United States, because at that time, a lot of banks issued their own money, and the money was usually backed by some kind of metal. It was, gold or silver or something like that. And one of the panics, and again, you could probably look this up, but one of the panics was touched off when a big quantity of, it might have been gold, it might have been silver, I think it was gold, being transported by ship from, I think, the West Coast to the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken. That ship sunk, and the quantity of gold on that ship was so significant that it created a financial crash, okay? Because again, that was the basis of the money. So like, to have your money denominated in some physical thing that could get lost or destroyed or stolen or whatever, it's just archaic when you think about it. And I think part of the reason why Trump, maybe less so Trump, more Elon Musk, because everything Elon Musk says with respect to economics or the monetary system is based in kind of this hard money understanding. We're going to go bankrupt if we don't get rid of the deficit and blah, 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 all this kind of crap. And I think this idea of going down there, hey, we got to check to make sure that gold is there, as if it's the basis of our monetary system. It's not. It's stupid. It really is. And I don't know if there's ever going to come a time when people kind of relinquish this idea of gold as money and just kind of see it for what it is. I mean, it's funny because Elon Musk, I remember he once said that all you need to do is mine one asteroid, and you have all the gold you would ever want for basically until the end of time. And there's countless asteroids flying around in space that are loaded up with these rare, what we call rare earth minerals and precious metals and everything. One asteroid, if you mine it, I mean, the price of gold basically would drop to zero. And eventually, that's going to happen. I mean, as we get farther into space and set up colonies and this and that, those kind of things. I mean, the universe is an infinite amount of physical resources like that. So it's kind of silly. I think it's kind of silly because the monetary system, really all it is an accounting system. So there's nothing physical to it, and there shouldn't be anything physical to it. It's like, I bought this from you, and I gave you this amount of accounting units, and you gave me this thing, which is equivalent to a certain amount of accounting units. I mean, that's all it is. And when you start getting into this, not getting into it, I mean, we've been in it for thousands of years, that it's some kind of a physical, the money is some kind of a physical thing. That's when you run into trouble. I mean, because physical things are finite. They could be destroyed. They could be lost. They could be stolen. So, I mean, I just look at this stuff. We're going to go down there to Fort Knox and we're going to check it out to make sure the gold is there. It's funny. I just think it's funny. Anyway, that's my update for Sunday evening. Beautiful here. And I'm looking forward to my trip to LA. Could be a wild week. I mean, we ended on a very sour note. And I see a lot of commentary now out there online where people are getting concerned about mass layoffs from, what Elon is doing, Doge, and also the shrinking of the government. Like, people understand, like, that is an economic factor. And actually, I was surprised that there's an understanding that when you shrink that, the outcome, at least initially, is not positive. It's a negative thing. So even though the fiscal flows are very strong right now, and there's zero indication in the fiscal flows that there is any sort of a slowdown in spending. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. It's accelerating over last year, continuing to accelerate over last year. But there's a conception now that things are going to get bad because of what's happening with respect to these policies of, mass layoffs and shrinking the government. So, like I said last week, as long as I see these flows steady and increasing, now I understand that sentiment, psychology can drive short-term moves in the market. So if the sentiment and the psychology right now is such that people are, turning negative because they believe this is going to cause a contraction, then we can see, a volatile period in the near term. But I'm waiting to see the actual numbers. Once I see the actual numbers, then I know how to strategize off of that. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, evening, whatever, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.